Well, as promised, that is the Tara Conch Show. Welcome to this third video with the light from within. I'm Miguel Electronica, and there's about 5 videos on our landing page. This is one of them, and we are going to be talking about, yes, the subtle components of your yoga practice. So, most people around the world, maybe not India, maybe not, in the East, but generally speaking, people, when they hear the word yoga, what do they think of? Bingo. Yoga poses. But guess what? That is the least of it. Yoga poses is the least. So this whole course takes you through this journey, starting from the subtle components of yoga and into the more gross or physical components, okay? So this video is intended to talk a little bit about what our intention is as it pertains to the subtle components of your yoga practice. So you can see right now, I've already got the screen up, right? So generally speaking, I'm going to take my mouse here. I'm going to go to the top here. You go to alightfromwithin.com. This is the landing page. Guess what? We have a 14-day free trial. 14-day free trial right here. You have nothing to lose. You can check this course out. You can work with it as many hours of the day as you'd like for up to 2 weeks. And we just have a hunch that you're going to like it so much that you'll just continue. And remember, as I said in the other videos, every membership has a 1-year expiration. So, whenever you start it, you have 1 year to finish it. And, the great thing is I'm always adding new things. So now let's go and take you back into, it would go and then sign in, and then it would bring me here. All right. I'm going to go to my dashboard. I hit the dashboard. Okay. There's 6 chapters, 6 parts to this, and I'm just going to scroll right down, and I'm going to take us to a guide to the subtle components of your yoga practice. Now, I know you can read, I get that, but like every chapter, there's the objectives and goals, and then we have, wired to a universe of chance and possibility. First one, what is that? So I'm going to click it, and it takes me here. We have a lot of videos in here. There's a lot of text, but not everywhere, and there doesn't have to be, okay? So you'll read this over, you'll watch the videos, but the intention is wired to a universe of chance and possibility. Bottom line is this, in my opinion anyway, we create our own realities, and I think most of us would agree. We do. And we have our perceptions. We have the perceptions of self-perception, and we have the perception of how others perceive us. And then we have all of the experiences throughout our life. And then we have this thing called chakras. Chakras are not physical. They are subtle, more sublime, hence the term subtle, vortex of energy, or vortices of energy. And it's sort of like if there was a storm, and we've all heard the expression, in the needle of the storm. Nothing happens. You could be meditating, and if you're in the needle of the storm, everything around it is being disturbed and uprooted. But when you're in the center, in that needle, you are calm. This is what the subtle components of your yoga practice is. So all your experiences, all the things that happen, we say samskaras, the stuff that happens to us. And because our chakras, which are these vortex of energy, right, there's 7 of them. There's much more than 7, but there's 7 basic ones, okay? And so what we're trying to do is understand that these energetic places in our body, like, the crown, the third eye, the throat, so on and so forth, all the way down to, the first chakra, which is the root chakra. So They have their correlate physical components, which is, of course, the endocrine glands. And so, a lot of times when we're scarred by things, when we've been conditioned by things, it's not just up here, right? As I said in the video, it's here and it's in the body. And I have seen from 25 years of teaching, I've been with people where suddenly they've been in a pose, a physical yoga pose, and they would start crying. Literally, I've seen them bawl. As a matter of fact, I remember working with someone, and I was giving them a private. And they were really working hard, and they were in a pose, and they gave me this look. They just looked at me, and it wasn't a very nice look. I knew what was going on. And I said to that person, I said, don't chase it away. I said, I know what you're feeling right now. You want to punch me right now. And they looked at me because they trust me, obviously, and I've been working for a long time. And the woman said, oh, yes, I sure do. So I've seen this. I know about how unfolding energy works. She was safe. But I wanted to bring attention to something. I wanted to bring attention as to, our ability to shift our consciousness and our perceptions. We basically are like a filter, human beings. And, from the time we're born, we come in and we work through however long that we have in this life. And just like the filter, oddly enough, my furnace just went off, and you probably heard that. So that filter, when it's on, and that air is circulating, it takes all the particulates, all the foreign objects out of the air and keeps it there. We are no different. We don't have a way to get out of, we do not have a way to get rid of all of the particulates from our life, unless, of course, we learn about techniques such as yoga and what have you. So, what does this have to do with chakras? What does this have to do with yoga? Everything. Everything. Because if you work through, and I'm going to go back now, and notice I could just hit this back arrow, and, that'll take me to the objectives and goals. And anyway, I'm going to go right back down to the subtle components. So wired to, the universe of a chance and possibility, that's what that means. It's just a little introduction about, how we're all conditioned and what do we do with that? How do we rid ourselves of it? You have a clogged drain, you put something in the Drano, and it gets rid of it. But not us human beings. Us human beings are a bit more tricky, or trickier to work with. Anyway, so we learn these techniques through meditation. We learn to work through the practice of yoga and pranayama, and this becomes our filtering system. You see, we no longer have to hold on to these things that we'd forgotten about, but it builds up congestion. That filter cannot work as easily when it's so filled up with particulates and matter and experiences from our life. So the homunculus, right? So check this video out. It's really cool. Really what this is about is nothing more, and this is a term that has been around for a number of decades, but the homunculus looks like a very grotesque representation of a person, and really it's nothing more than this. There's an old expression in the training world, in the fitness world, right? And it's about if you create a specific need for something. So let's say I want to become a basketball player. To become a basketball player, I have to train my body, my muscles, everything, certain myofascial slings. I have to train them when I'm shooting a ball, whatever I'm doing, right? And to become more competitive, I need to build those muscles up. If I play the bass or I play the cello, okay, I sit down, let's take the cello, and I sit and one leg is down and the other is up and I'm holding it. If I do that for a number of years, I am building up a demand. It's called the SAID principle, specific adaptation for imposed demand. And so that's what this is. So if you're doing mudras or you're meditating, okay, it seems like an effort wasted. It isn't. It is actually probably more powerful than actually doing the yoga poses, but they work in tangent, you see. That's why in the 8 limbs of yoga, there's 8 different branches of Ashtanga, and that's the 8 limbs of yoga. And people all over the world, they jump in at different places. And you can check out the chapter, it's part of this, that talks all about the 8 different branches. But really what it is at the end of the day, it's like a feedback loop. It's like the Fibonacci. Everything recycles back upon itself. So you're using one discipline to reinforce and strengthen another. And that's what a lot of this is. So the subtle components of yoga gets you used to the idea that, mudras, okay, whatever it is. There was a guy, his name was William Wundt, W-U-N-D-T, and he was a psychiatrist at the University of Chicago back around 1910, 1915. And this man loved India, and he went to India as many times as he could. All the different practices in India influenced this man so much that he ran the University of Chicago. That's where he was a professor. He ran their psychiatry department or psychiatric department. And so when he came back, he's the person that actually figured out when it comes to kids, and sometimes kids that have back then, now we're going back a long time, so you have to put your mindset back around this time, right? But he figured out a way to change kids' handwriting. If somebody came in and he was working with a kid, he would look at their handwriting, he would analyze it, and then he would actually train them to write very differently. And he kept very, very detailed notes. And what he actually learned was just by changing somebody's physical handwriting, they had to hold a pencil differently, they had to hold their body different, they had to move their hands, they needed to create demand. The brain, right? That's the central part. Everything. I move my fingers, I move my legs, it's all from the brain, right? So what happens is all those neural pathways from the brain to wherever it would be, in this case, the hands, okay? What it does is it builds up nerve plexi. And nerve plexi, they interact with each other. So it was a very interesting thing, and there was a term for it. It was called handwriting for behavior modification. Same thing. That's what this is, the homunculus. Okay? So now let's go back again, and let's look at what are yoga mudras. Talked a little bit about that. They're hand gesticulations. There are 52 of them. They're really, really great. Never, ever force a mudra. You work into them. The pressure should be no more than if you were holding a very light, either a walnut or an egg, okay? But no more than that. And then we start to work with the meridians of the body, okay? The pranayamas, you know what they are. Those are breathing exercises. There's 5 of them. Work through them as often as you like. Watch the videos. The bandhas, so Maha Bandha, that's 4 bandhas, but there's generally 3 bandhas, and these are the window into the conservation of energy. That's what this is. So we learned, there's one for the throat, and there's one for the navel, and then there's one down by the sacrum, okay? So we learn these energetic techniques to conserve energy. As a matter of fact, learning the practice of yoga is really more about learning how to conserve energy, even as it pertains to, the mentality of your thoughts or the mental energy or your mental bandwidth, okay? And then maybe, the 7 chakras, I'm going to just go there for a minute. I'm just going to show you, the video. And incidentally, a lot of the videos, they're videos that are on YouTube that are meant to be shared. And this was a very specific thing. I don't want just me or two other people just sharing our point of view. I like to go and find the videos that I really like as it relates to whatever it is that we're doing and share their videos, give them credit for what they've done. So that's a really important thing to know, because it's important to get a lot of people's points of view on a subject matter. So the 7 chakras are here, a little bit of information on them. It's very simple. You just hit one of these, boom, and it takes you to the first chakra. I mean, it really shows you everything about the chakras, and then there's some videos that are in process of being connected to this particular portion. That said, okay, we talked about the chakras. We have a very, very general idea as to what they are. You'll work with them. You'll visualize them. You'll journal with them. So that's a cool thing. All right. I'm just going to hit my back button a couple times, and it'll take me right back to this. And then the symbol of your soul, things like that. These are actually what I call the personal enhancement exercises. So there are just a bunch of questions that you work through, you answer them, and look, there's a little submit button. So when you hit the submit button, it actually saves it to your profile. So when you download it or when you want to print it, all the stuff can be done. You can even see add document here on top. So there's a few of these, and incidentally, I'm going to hit the gray arrows, and that'll take me to the next personal enhancement exercise, creating resolve exercise, right? A video, of course, and then all these different, questions that you would visualize and then respond to, and of course, then there's the submit button as well. Add documents on top. All right, so there are a bunch of these different 1 year from now exercise, unsaid things. These are all things that through our trainings over 20-year period, they're very, very powerful. They're amazing, and it's part of the journey. Okay, so back to the dashboard, and here we are. So then after that's kind of it. And we always have a summary and what have you. So in a nutshell, I took you through just a little bit, just touched upon it, just kind of scratched that little thing just to get a whiff of what it is. And then that's enough to take you more deeply into the subtle components of your yoga practice. Subtle components are actually trickier than the physical gross ones. Very easy for me to come up if you're doing a yoga pose, saying, "Hey John, you know what? See if you can, keep those toes from pressing so hard onto the floor, and then relax your heart, relax your kidneys." Right? I can see that. I've been doing that for a long time. But the subtle stuff, that's a very different engine altogether. So powerful. And bottom line is, when you work with the subtle components juxtaposed to the gross physical components, this is what brings what Swami Vivekananda used to call the discernment, the principle of discernment. And there's an old Indian expression, it's neti neti, neti neti. Neti means neither this nor that. Because we're always discriminating. Ooh, there's this. Ooh, there's that, right? It's not about that. The judgments just fall to the wayside, and we become observers. And there's so much to learn. Remember the filter? The sublime and subtle components of yoga allow you, this button that you press, that automatically releases all of the stuff in your filter that no longer needs to be there, and brings it back to a fresh place. That's meditation. That's the subtle components of your practice. That's what allows us to feel sublimely beautiful. So, Miguel Latronica, thank you for bearing with this long video. I bid you peace. Namaste.